Hey guys, welcome back. It's Joel from Reboot Studios here, and this is the second part of how we at Reboot Studios go about making a multiplayer game or introducing a multiplayer aspect to our game. So in the previous episode, we did quite a bit of code. So we actually have joined a room using Photon Unity Networking. So the next step for us is to spawn our player, which we're going to do this episode, and have them run around, and we're just going to build a second. So we're just going to build, and we're just going to have a second client running, and we'll be able to see each other, move around, interact with each other, etc. So we've gotten to this point on joined room. So this is called when any of our ways of joining a room works. So obviously in this one we want to spawn in our player and delete our canvas and all that sort of stuff. So we've made our player into a prefab here. So we're just going to put it in a folder and we're just going to call it resources. And the reason we do this is because when you spawn a player using Photon Unity Networking, the only way to spawn it is with a string. And with that string, we're just going to put in our name of our character, and it has to be in a resources folder. So I'll show you guys that in a second. It might not make any sense now, but don't worry. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to say, we're going to turn off the camera that is looking over our plane here, which is our main camera. So the easiest way obviously to do that is just say public game object camera 1. There we go. Then we'll just drag that in, and then in here we want to say camera1.set active false. So we'll just turn off our camera there, and then we'll just also disable our canvas. So we'll just have two more game objects, canvas and EE for ES for event system, and then just save this. Then we'll set those as inactive as well. Okay, so now that we've done that, we're all ready to spawn in our player. So we're going to say photon network.instantiate with the string prefab name, which is, if we go to our resources, that's just the name of our prefab here, so FPS controller. So we're just going to say that, FPS controller. And then it wants a position and a rotation. So for our position, we just want to spawn it in somewhere on our plane, which doesn't really matter. We'll just give it where it was before. So we're just going to create a new vector 3 above it called pos for position, and we'll just say new vector 3 with, what was it, negative 0.4, 1.44 and negative 0.62. Okay, so now we have our position. And they have to be floats. So we'll say pos, and for our rotation, we'll just say quaternion.identity. Oh, whoops, identity. Because it doesn't really matter what way we're facing, because our character can turn at any point. Okay, so now that's going to spawn in our player on the network. So when we join a room, it's going to spawn in our player, and we should be able to move around. So we're actually going to need to put a component called a photon view onto our FPS controller, and this is so we can observe our transform. So we're going to put our transform in our observe components, and this will update our transform to the server every frame, so that everyone on the server knows our position and rotation, and it can update their client accordingly. So we're just going to only show our position and rotation since we're never going to change scale. But if you have say a game where like you might be growing in size or anything like that, you do want to observe your scale as well. So now that we are observing our transform and everything is set up, we should be able to walk around now, and everything should work perfectly. So our plane has a mesh collider, so we will be able to walk on our plane. I was just making sure there. And now let's build and see if we run into any issues. So upon building the client, we had a few errors. Now the one thing we forgot to do was set the on click. So that's very easy obviously to do. You just pick the scripts object, go to networking and go join random clicked, and do that for host server and join server as well. So that will make obviously the buttons call the functions in here. Now the next thing that we must fix is up here. We had it set to mono behavior pun. Now we want to change that to mono behavior pun callbacks, and that will trigger all of the callbacks. Now this is a new version of pun, or new-ish, so I did not know that you had to put the callbacks on the end. So just change every time we said virtual in front of these, just change it to override, and this will override the function so that it acts as a pun callback. So just change these all to override, and then yeah, so now we can actually build it. So I'm just going to click join random server, and obviously it will not find a server, and it will create a new one because there is none. So it's just me in this server, and I'm just walking around as a first person character right now, walking around this plane. Now if I open up my second client, which is my Unity editor, and then I can just go join random server as well, and now you can see that these two do see each other, but they both move each other. Now this is very important because obviously you don't want them controlling each other. Now you can see that there are two prefabs in this client, and over here there's two as well, but I can also control him. So both clients have two people, but they also have two prefabs in here and two scripts, first person controller, that say that when I click W I should move forward. Now that's on both characters, so obviously they're both going to move. So the problem is we need to make sure that the character that's not us has their first person controller script disabled, so then we can't control them. Oh well, that's the wrong one. Hold up. So we need that one disabled so then we can move around without controlling them. So the way that we will fix this is in our prefabs. So if we just go to our resources and check our prefab here, we want to start with our first person controller script disabled, and we also want to start with, if I just drag this in real quick, with our camera disabled. So then there's not two cameras in the scene at one time for both clients. So we just want only one of them, which is ours, to have the camera and the first person controller enabled. So what we want to do is when we spawn in our player, we also enable the first person controller and camera, but only for the one that we spawn in, so only our player. So we're just going to save our FPS controller prefab here, and then we're going to go into our script and fix this. So if we go to where we spawned in our player, this isn't just a void function, this returns a game object. So we can say game object our player equals that, and that will work. Now we can say from there our player dot get component first person controller dot enabled equals true. So that will set it equal just for our player. Now we can also say our player dot transform dot find child, and we'll just see what it's called here. I think it's just first person character, so we'll just say first person character, dot game object dot set active to true, and that should fix all of our issues here. We can just quickly change this since this is obsolete now. Let's just change it to transform.find. So now on our second client, if we click join random server here, we will spawn in just as usual. Can look around, move around, and then on our other client, click join random server as well. And as you can see, we can move around just controlling our player, and we can jump. And if we jump, you can see that that player jumped, and vice versa. So that's exactly how you do it. Obviously, this isn't a perfect solution, but it just lays down the basics. So thanks for watching, everyone. This has been Joel from Reboot Studios, and this is our basics on how we integrate multiplayer into our games. So thanks for watching, and see you all later.